Hey everybody, Dr. LeGrand here, and today we are going to be talking about the best ADHD supplements that I currently use in 2025. And I've been helping people with ADHD for over past 10 years now. And some of the things that really has to be established when it comes to knowing which are the best is really identifying what is the root of the problem to know exactly which supplements are going to be the best. And so I want to kind of take you to these different pathways, the neurotransmitter pathways. When it comes to ADHD, we always look at, specifically dopamine as an issue for the most part. But there's other different pathways that we do have to consider too, such as like serotonin and also GABA are some that also can contribute to a lot of these different ADHD symptoms. So when we are considering certain supplements that are going to be the best, that I find that are constantly showing up as the best supplements for my ADHD patients that I use time and time again. These are it's not a full list, but these are the kind of top of the ones that I find myself constantly being used. And I want to kind of use this as a comparison to show different case studies of why I decide to use these supplements and why I see it being presented. And so the very first one that I see as a common one that does show up is something that needs to be used to help with both tyrosine as well as dopamine. Because two of those things, as you recall here, is that dopamine does need to be helped to be built with using tyrosine. And if it's low, just like how this patient had low tyrosine as well as low dopamine, I use something called Dopa Boost. And so why Dopa Boost is because it does have N-acetyltyrosine in it, and it has muconaparines. Now, muconaparines has L-Dopa in it, which L-Dopa is right before dopamine, and it helps make dopamine. So that's why I really like using Dopa Boost, because it has all those elements. It also does have vitamin B6, the activated form. Vitamin B6 is necessary as a cofactor for helping and making and building and modulating dopamine. Okay, that's why I really like it. It also has green tea, which has L-theanine in it, which also does help build and modulate dopamine. So this is probably a really good one if you are someone that does have both low in tyrosine as well as dopamine. This is a great one to be using, and I use it quite a bit. Now, another one that I would say is probably about 90% of the time, I will see my ADHD patients when I do run different tests, run different amino acids, I will see phenylethylamine levels tend to be low. And like I said, I probably see about 90% of the time, this tends to be a problem with people with ADHD, especially adults with ADHD. And so when I decide to use something like this, it's because I see the testing from it. And what we use is DL-phenylalanine, which is the amino acid that helps make phenylethylamine, as well as help make tyrosine, and then eventually dopamine. So that's another one to really consider. Probably one of the best ones is one I use consistently because I tend to be a little bit low also myself on phenylethylamine, and I find it really helpful for both my memory, recall, as well as some motivation as well. Now, some other really big ones too is to look at specifically when it comes to norepinephrine, epinephrine, and serotonin. So just like this patient, their levels were really low. And when we see that, there's a few things that I like to incorporate. So for serotonin, it typically will be 5-HTP and also L-tryptophan to help with serotonin, because both of those are also part of the serotonin pathway, as you can see here, 5-HTP and also tryptophan for helping making serotonin. So those two can be really great if you are deficient in those areas. And then the other thing that I also mentioned before, L-theanine is also great for both norepinephrine, use a different color here, norepinephrine, as well as serotonin. So if you're low on those, as well as dopamine, L-theanine is great for all three of those, as well as even with GABA. Now, another one, some other really great supplements to incorporate, especially for 2025, going into 2025, what I see just come over and over again is sometimes we'll have this doesn't happen like often, but it does happen, is where we'll have a patient where they're low on everything. So I thought this was a good case study to show, because if you're low in any of these kind of categories, then it's good to incorporate these particular types of supplements. So obviously we've already talked about DL-phenylalanine and Dopa Boost and L-theanine and 5-HTP and L-tryptophan because of these specific areas that this person would be low in. Now, some other things to also consider is if you're low on histamine, like this individual was, you would want to add something like L-histamine. The histamine is used as also as a driver. It isn't just for like allergies and getting red, itchy eyes and having, histamine levels elevated. It's also necessary to have an adequate amount to build and modulate neurotransmitters as well. Now, two other really important different amino acids too is glutamate and also glycine. And so we'll add glycine powder and also L-glutamine, because both of those also are helpful for building and modulating neurotransmitters. Now, one I didn't mention in here is also incorporating GABA. Been using that more and have found that would actually be effective, is using GABA, just like how this individual was. They had low GABA levels. And that's really important for helping more so with mood and anxiety and stress, which is very common with people with ADHD. And so that's something you definitely want to incorporate. Okay. Now, a few other things that you want to consider too when it comes to your ADHD is I'll run typically a micronutrient test for most people, because people with ADHD tend to be more micronutrient deficient than the average person. And some of the ones that I tend to see creep up more often than not is a lot of your B vitamins. So like vitamin B3, this individual's vitamin B6 still so much on the low end. I like to see a little bit higher there, but also like even vitamin B12 could be low, vitamin B5. Those are all really important for also building and modulating different neurotransmitters. Vitamin D3 is also another really big one that tends to be really deficient in a lot of people with ADHD. So that's something to also consider. It could be really beneficial, can impact your energy and your focus as well. Vitamin K2, I see this more of a problem with older adults with ADHD. This is more have to do with cardiovascular health. So we always have to consider other health aspects of your ADHD, not just the ADHD part, but other things that could be contributing and making your ADHD symptoms even worse. And so if you don't have a good functioning heart, having heart health, preventing diabetes, autoimmune conditions, if those aren't managed well, it makes your ADHD symptoms even worse. So we always have to make sure that we're also keeping in mind about that. And so vitamin K2 is something also to really consider, and even vitamin K1. And then some other ones that I do see creep up too is choline levels tend to be low. Now, I probably will see this more when you're like in your 40s and above. So anybody 40 and above will tend to see this as a problem. Even in some cases, we'll see serine levels low. So phosphatidylcholine or phosphatidylserine are some really great ones to incorporate. Just like I show right here with this individual, their serine levels were low, and so we added phosphatidylserine. Another one is also CoQ10. Now, CoQ10 is important for energy production. So ATP, providing energy for the cells. Now, why is this important to ADHD? Especially with adults with ADHD, they tend to reach this state of burnout mentally and physically. And so I will see these tend to start depleting as adults get older with their ADHD, and it's something that needs to be addressed if it is deficient. Okay. And then the last, a few more other ones that I would suggest too here is definitely looking into omega-3s. So whether that might be EPA, like this individual was, or DHEA that could be low, it's something really to look at and see if you're deficient, because this can impact memory, inflammation to the brain, prevention, all sorts of things that are very important when it comes to ADHD health. Now, another one that's also very common, and you guys probably have heard me talk about this a lot, but is really looking at your cortisol. And cortisol has everything to do with energy, and also can impact your focus and motivation throughout the day. It also can impact your sleep. And so where you can see with this case, they have low cortisol levels in the morning, but in the afternoon and in the evening, it's spiked. So there's two things that you have to do here, and that you have to start to incorporate is one, adding something like adrenal desiccated first thing in the morning, and then using something like cortisol manager or even rhodiola afternoon and evening to lower those cortisol levels down. That helps kind of more manage it. So those are some other really great ones that I use time and time again. If your test levels look like this, sometimes they might just be low the entire day. So you wouldn't use something like cortisol manager at all, or rhodiola, but just use something like adrenal desiccated. Now, if it's just spiked, then yeah, you wouldn't even use something like adrenal desiccated, but use something more like cortisol manager, depending on where it is spiked. Okay. So that's why it's really important to test beforehand before incorporating different types of supplementation, because then you don't know if it could cause worse side effects for you or benefits you. That's why testing is so important. And then one other thing, a couple other things here too, to really keep in mind is hormones definitely impact the ADHD brain drastically. And so it's always good to check, especially with adults with ADHD. Hormones can definitely impact your ADHD brain. And so some big ones, obviously progesterone is going to be a big one with usually mostly with females. And so we'll need to incorporate natural progesterone cream if that's the case. And then in other cases with males, we might find that testosterone and DHEA levels might be low. And so we want to add something like testogain, Simplex M, and DHEA if that's necessary. Because DHEA is what helps make testosterone as well as helps make estradiol. So those are things that are really important. And then another really important thing is the gut. If you have any digestive complaints, it definitely can impact your process of making and building different neurotransmitters. 90 to 95% of all of our neurotransmitters are made in the gut. So it's really important to make sure that those things are working properly. So another one that I like to incorporate is called betaine HCl pepsin, gentian root. So that's always a really, really good one. And to be able to do. Okay. Also pancreatic enzymes. A lot of people, when they get older, a lot of times they're not producing enough digestive enzymes. And so I always like to incorporate that as well. And then lastly, I do like to incorporate probiotics because a lot of times, especially if you've taken any antibiotics in the last couple of years, that can make things worse. And make it difficult to build and modulate different neurotransmitters. So I'll add a probiotic just like how when we'll test for gut microbiome, like how this person had imbalances going on there. And then the last few little things that I do see that I didn't mention before, but magnesium, zinc, iron, and ginkgo biloba bacopa are some ones that I've been finding on myself, definitely recommending more and more when we do a lot of these different tests and find that people find a lot of benefit, especially if it's necessary. Okay. So if you're like really trying to figure out, okay, what are the best supplements for me? Because there's a lot of supplements. I'm not expecting you to take all these supplements because these are several different case studies that you have to understand that they are specific to the individual. But it's what I see common over and over again with a variety of different situations with the person and their individual needs. So how do you know specifically what you need? Because if you'd like to be able to do this for your own ADHD, I'd love to help you out because what does require is investigative work. You got to understand what are the imbalances with your biochemistry, and that requires lab work to be able to do so. So I'd love to help you out because what I'm offering is an opportunity to book a consultation with me. It's called the Focus Mindset Strategy Session. And it's a $750 value, and it's a 45-minute session with me where I dive in deep to understand the root causes that's causing these symptoms and look into your medical history because there's a lot of things in your medical history that are contributing to these symptoms you're experiencing to be able to help eliminate these ADHD symptoms. But it requires to understand that. And then on top of that, knowing exactly what labs to incorporate to identify the root cause. And so what I also do offer when you do book a consultation with me is you get the access to our nutrition lifestyle tracking app that we use with all our patients and clients. It's a $300 value. On top of that, you do get a bonus access to my ADHD health course. That's a $597 value. And then, so it's over $1,000 value and you get that all for just $297. And so all you got to do is you just have to click on the link in the description below right there. And once you go there, it'll take you to this page and you'll book the consultation. Once you book the consultation or click on that button, then you'll purchase. And then once you purchase, this is very important. Please don't forget to actually book your appointment. You still got to pick your date and time. So once you purchase, then you'll book your date and time. It'll take you here. You pick your date and time, and then you fill out your information. And then lastly, it'll take you to this last page here. It's very important to make sure to check your email to make sure you got your confirmation appointment. Also activate your Practice Better account. And then this is very important to fill out the client questionnaire. This is something you need to fill out beforehand, before meeting with me. So that way I can look over this before our appointment. This is how I determine what labs we need to incorporate, as well as what kind of action plan. And also, I do if you do have a significant other or spouse that helps with the health decisions that you make, I do require that they're there, so that way I can understand the outside perspectives of the spouse, the challenges that's happening with having ADHD. So please do have them present there if that is the case. Do block out 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how many questions you do have. Just book out the full time, and do please show up early. I do give people like about 10-minute grace period. Otherwise, I have to mark it as a no-show. But we give you lots of reminders so you don't miss out on your appointment. So if you really want to finally tackle your ADHD and understand the root cause of your problems and finally eliminate those ADHD symptoms and have that optimal focused mind, then this is the best solution. As the first step is to click on that link in the description below to book that consultation with me, and hope to see you guys on the inside. Thanks. Bye.